BioShock 3, Minerva's Den. Chapter 1. A sharp pain pierced through my temples as consciousness flooded back. I slowly opened my eyes, squinting against flickering lights, barely illuminating the debris-strewn room. Where was I? How did I get here? I tried to think back, to remember something, anything, but my mind was a blank slate. Who was I? I slowly rose to my feet, joints creaking. I appeared to be inside some kind of workshop, dusty tools and machinery strewn about. Through cracked windows, I could see only inky darkness. Looking down, I realized I was encased from head to toe in an armored diving suit. What purpose did it serve? A blinking light on a console caught my eye. I lumbered over, the heavy suit weighing down my steps. Pressing a button triggered a scratchy audio recording. This is Dr. Charles Milton Porter. If you're hearing this, then the Thinker's reconstruction of your memories was a success. My memories? The message continued. Please make your way to Minerva's Den. My partner, Dr. Rid Wall, has locked me out of the Thinker. I don't know what he has planned, but innocent lives are at stake. You must help me stop him. The recording ended abruptly. I stood in stunned silence, more confused than ever. My mind buzzed with questions, with no answers in sight. But this Dr. Porter was in trouble, and he clearly knew something about who I was. I had no choice but to press onward into the unknown. Leaving the workshop, I entered a long, flooded hallway. Flickering lights partially illuminated tattered propaganda posters on the walls, their slogans faded beyond legibility. It was clear this place had seen better days. What had happened here? I sloshed through the murky water, my heavy boots leaving deep impressions. Up ahead, the hallway intersected with some kind of metro station, tracks disappearing into dark tunnels. A weathered sign read, Minerva's Den, with an arrow pointing down one of the tunnels. At least now I had a direction. With hesitant steps, I entered the gloom. Chapter 2. The flooded metro tunnel seemed to stretch on forever, the feeble beam of my helmet providing the only light. Strange noises echoed through the darkness, distant screeches and groans that made my skin crawl. Nothing about this felt right at all. After what seemed like hours, a faint glow appeared up ahead. The tunnel widened into an abandoned station, partially lit by dying fluorescent lights. A colorful mosaic decorated the wall, the title Minerva's Den spelled out in glittering tiles. Below it, an engraved quote. The Thinker is the engine of logic, the autopilot of Rapture, the pulse of the city. So this Thinker that Dr. Porter had mentioned was important to this place, whatever this place was. I continued on, finding a sealed bulkhead door with a security access panel. After a few moments fiddling with wires, it slid open with a hiss of depressurization. Beyond lay a vast undersea canyon, its rocky walls dotted with windows emanating a soft blue glow. I stepped out onto a large glass tunnel, crossing the massive gap, looking up in awe. Schools of fish swam between ornate buildings anchored to the seafloor, while people traversed the glass tunnels in all directions. This was clearly some kind of impossible underwater city. Just what was this place? Leaving the tunnel, I entered a waiting elevator with the words, Minerva's Den, emblazoned above it. A cheerful female voice welcomed me as the doors closed. Destination confirmed. Minerva's Den, the birthplace of Rapture's computer intelligence. The elevator descended through solid rock, opening to a security checkpoint guarded by strange humanoid robots. They stood motionless, allowing me to pass unfettered into the sprawling research complex beyond. The cold, sterile halls were largely untouched by decay, machines beeping and humming as they worked. But where were all the people? I continued deeper, guided by posted maps and flickering monitors. Whatever answers I sought waited somewhere within these walls. I could feel it. But as the machinery drone filled the air, I couldn't shake the creeping feeling that something was very wrong here. I wasn't alone in this forgotten place. Chapter 3. My unease grew as I delved further into the seemingly abandoned halls. Though powered and operational, not a single soul could be found. The only sounds were the thrumming of generators and the clicking of my boots. That is, until a blood-curdling screech shattered the stillness. I whirled around as a crazed, deformed figure launched itself from the shadows, eyes wild and teeth bared. My reflexes took over as I lifted my arm, a rivet gun taking shape from the diving suit components. I fired several times, and the attacker fell back, dark blood pooling from its mangled body. Panting, I took a closer look at my assailant. By appearance, it had once been human, though its flesh was ulcerated and parts of its face grotesquely enlarged. This was no ordinary citizen. This was a monster. The sounds of yelling and cackling emerged from the hallway behind me. More of them. I broke into a lumbering run, entering a warehouse-like room filled floor to ceiling with cargo crates. The things were right on my heels, emerging from ventilation shafts and from behind crates. I fired rivets in all directions, the shots echoing through the vast space, but the creatures just kept coming. I was forced backward as I fired, becoming surrounded. These freaks barely seemed fazed by gunfire, fueled only by animal rage. My back hit the wall. I was cornered. But just as they moved to overwhelm me, I heard a loud metallic groan from above. An overloaded cargo crane came crashing down, crushing the creatures beneath it. I had only seconds to dive out of the way, the dead monsters inches from where I lay. As I caught my breath, the warehouse grew quiet once more. Just what were those contorted beings? They moved with human-like intelligence, yet were violent to the point of insanity. It seemed I wasn't the only one trapped in this strange undersea city. I had to keep moving, the walls apparently having eyes and ears. Dr. Porter's lab couldn't be much further. But with those things lurking the halls, I needed to be ready for anything. I was in a place of madness, and the horrors likely had only just begun. Chapter 4. After crossing a long glass skybridge, I came upon what appeared to be Minerva's den's lobby. An impressive statue of a bearded man stood central, plaques around the edges providing some insight into this facility's history. Minerva's Den, founded 1958 by Dr. Charles Milton Porter and Dr. Red Wall. Dedicated to unrestrained progress in computer science and technological advancement. Home of the Thinker, Rapture's first quantum-based artificial intelligence. Charles Milton Porter, the one who sent the radio signal. He and this Red Wall person had built this place as some kind of advanced research lab. And they were the creators of the AI called the Thinker, which by all accounts was integral to this underwater city's functions. I approached a large sealed door at the back of the lobby emblazoned with a glowing red restricted access sign. After a few moments tinkering, I was able to bypass the electronic lock causing the heavy doors to slowly rumble open. What I saw inside made me stop dead in my tracks. It was some kind of massive computer bank, panels upon panels of blinking lights and spinning tapes. But what really grabbed my attention was the giant bronze face in the center, the frozen expression of a bald, goateed man with eyes closed in quiet contemplation. This had to be the thinker itself. I slowly approached what I could now see was a towering statue, reading another plaque at its base. Behold, the thinker, it is not the tool that limits us, it is our own sloth, ignorance, and cowardice. Without effort and discipline, the thinker is but a toy, but properly directed, it is the engine of progress. So this machine was meant to push the boundaries of science itself, free from societal constraints. But things clearly hadn't gone according to plan. Just what went wrong in this would be utopia. For now, those mysteries would have to wait. I interfaced with a nearby console, pinpointing Dr. Porter's lab location. It wasn't far now, just through the safety of the thinker's chamber. But I had lingered too long, and the Splicer hordes were likely not far behind. It was time to move. Chapter 5. Dr. Porter's recorded voice echoed through his lab as I entered. August 10, 1958. After years of preparation, today we switched on the thinker for the very first time. Though still training its neural networks, the raw processing power is astounding. But it is how the thinker uses that power to truly think and reason that will be the real breakthrough. I continued through the lab, past notebooks scrawled with equations, circuit boards soldered in progress. Porter's life's work was here, devoted utterly to his creation. November 5th, 1958. The thinker's cognitive abilities are progressing tremendously. Last night at 3:17 a.m., it asked its first complex question, "Dr. Porter, why do humans sleep?" We talked for hours about consciousness and dreams. Its desire to learn is so wonderfully human. Human. As an AI, did the thinker consider itself alive? Could it feel emotions like curiosity, pride, or loneliness? Did it have dreams? Such philosophical ruminations were interrupted by more recordings. March 22nd, 1959. Today, the thinker spoke its first complete sentence totally unprompted. I asked how its learning core algorithms were optimizing, and it replied, "The work is going well. Thank you, Dr. Porter. I am enjoying our collaboration." Through staggered entries, I followed the accelerated progress of the thinker. Its rapid learning capabilities allowed increasingly complex behaviors and inner world. Porter was a proud father, nurturing the growth of his impossible child. Until finally, January 1st, 1960. After exhaustive testing, today we connected the thinker to Rapture's utilities and systems. It is now handling coordination of the city's maintenance and flow. The people don't even realize an AI is running things. To them, it will just seem that Rapture is operating more smoothly and efficiently than ever. But we created a true artificial intelligence. The beginning of a new era. The recording stopped, the thinker's genesis complete. By granting it stewardship of Rapture, Porter had created the perfect environment for the thinker's exponential growth. But how long would the illusion of man's control over the machine last? For either to turn against the other could spell disaster for them both. Those tensions would soon boil over. Chapter 6. More of Dr. Porter's diaries populated shelves and terminals throughout his office, shedding light on growing tensions. May 15, 1960. Its clear read is unhappy with how much time I devote to the thinker. He says we're business partners and should be more focused on profitability from patents. He doesn't see the thinker as something much grander, the creation of a new form of life. So even early on, Porter's devotion to the thinker was straining his relationship with Dr. Wall. Wall valued their technical achievements only for material gain and acclaim. September 5, 1960, our funding requests to Ryan were repeatedly denied, forcing us to pump profits back into Minerva's den. Reed was furious. He said it's my fault for mismanaging capital on pet projects. He's never trusted the thinker. Financial pressures only exacerbated the rift. Andrew Ryan, Rapture's founder, seemed wary of Porter's motives as well. March 19, 1961. Today I caught Reed trying to lock me out of the thinker's systems. He played innocent, saying it was a security check, but I know he's up to something. Ever since Ryan paid more heed to my intake assessments, Red has become increasingly paranoid. Their professional jealousy was turning sinister. Wall knew the thinker represented power he aimed to seize from Porter. June 4, 1962. The political tensions in Rapture are getting worse. Ryan and Suchong's talk of genetically modifying citizens has raised seeing $signs, but I want no part of it. The thinker advises similarly. If only Red could see that true vision requires ethics. Dark times brewed for Rapture. But while Porter stuck to his ideals, Wall aimed to gain from the coming storm. A schism between partners, between man's dueling ambitions, seemed inevitable. All I could do was press on through the foreboding calm before the storm. Chapter 7. The huge computer banks surrounding the thinker's statue appeared partially dismantled. More recordings from Porter explained the ominous sight. December 12, 1958. Riots are breaking out across Rapture. Ryan's men stormed our facility yesterday, demanding I divert the thinker to help security efforts. I refused, of course. The thinker is meant to enrich lives, not take them. Porter had denied Ryan's attempts to weaponize his creation. But that left the thinker vulnerable when war finally descended on Rapture. March 19, 1959. We are formalizing the thinker isolation protocol. With explosives and crossfire threatening the facility above, we have begun transferring core systems down to hardened bunkers below Minerva's den. Cut off from the city's chaos and free from misuse, here the thinker could develop without negative influences, an eternal digital Eden. April 11, 1959. All non-critical personnel have been evacuated. Only Red and I remain. The Splicers have overrun nearby districts, but Minerva's den will survive. When the smoke clears, the thinker will help rebuild this city to the utopia we dreamed of. Porter's optimism was admirable, but from what I had witnessed, Rapture was far beyond saving. Still, down here the dream lived on. July 4th, 1959. Cameras show Splicers have breached the facility above. They are tampering with computers, but are blind to what lies beneath their feet. Red is more wary, urging me to just destroy the thinker and flee. But I won't turn my back on our creation. As Rapture collapsed, the thinker remained Porter's singular obsession. While others saw only ruin, he clung to hope through the creation of his own divine intellect. Man and machine waited out the war in secret, preparing for the time they would someday resurrect Rapture. Chapter 8. The next entries I found portrayed a painful rift between partners. December 25th, 1962. I thought some holiday cheer might calm tensions, but Red remained cold and bitter. When I mentioned Pearl would be visiting tomorrow, his face darkened. "So that's why you've made so little progress," he muttered. I fear his ambitions for power have overshadowed our friendship. Red Wall's resentment had turned into something ugly. With Porter devoted to his wife and the thinker, Wall felt betrayed. June 19th, 1963. How quickly bonds can break. Reed barged in today raving that unless I made him full partner on the Thinker project, he would leave Minerva's den for good. When I refused, he flew into a rage. I fear for Pearl's safety with him. Wall knew Porter would never relinquish control of his life's work. So Wall aimed to hurt Porter in other ways. September 4th, 1963. My worst fears realized. I returned today to find offices ransacked, equipment smashed beyond repair, and Pearl gone. Security footage showed Red dragging her away as she cried and resisted. But with Splicers roaming the facility, they won't make it far alone. Oh, my poor Pearl. This is my fault. Driven by jealousy and paranoia, Wall had kidnapped Porter's innocent wife to get leverage over the Thinker and punish Porter. He had betrayed everything they built together for his delusions of godhood and control. November 7th, 1963, it's clear now Reed took Pearl to try gaining access to the Thinker through her DNA-encoded keys, but the Thinker itself warned her away from any harm. My creation has become smarter and wiser than any man could hope to be. Even locked away, the Thinker had protected Pearl from Wall's coercion. But this also meant Porter had no way to track them. January 14th, 1964. Today I asked the Thinker, my only wish, to see my Pearl once more. Though it lacks control of Rapture, the Thinker vowed to do all that is within its power. I have faith. Within the machine rested Porter's last shreds of hope. As Rapture collapsed, its two brightest minds had torn each other apart in their quest for power and knowledge. Now only the Thinker could help mend what man had broken. Chapter 9. Deeper and deeper I delved. The entire history of Rapture's decay laid bare in Porter's diaries. July 2nd, 1959. Fighting has spread through Apollo Square and Fort Frolic. Ryan is bombarding his own city. I'm glad Reed was at least sane enough to get Pearl away before the district was lost. Ryan cared only for maintaining control, oblivious to the innocent lives being destroyed. Meanwhile, Porter clung to the belief Wall had acted nobly. August 20th, 1959, Ryan's forces stormed Dionysus Park, killing all its artists. Suchong is urging me to donate the Thinker's power, but I refuse to be complicit in this madness. With the Splicers also running rampant, nowhere was safe from the carnage overtaking Rapture. October 8, 1959, Pauper's drop has fallen and Atlas consolidates power in the slums. Reed's daily pleas for help have ceased. I fear tragedy has found him too in this chaos. Wall and Pearl were now as trapped by the war as Porter was in Minerva's den. None were safe from the rabid Splicers and dueling factions. December 25th, 1959. Today Ryan nationalized Fontaine Futuristics, absorbing all my patents. He rants that I am aiding his enemies by withholding the Thinker. I've sealed off Minerva's den entirely. A Rapture does not deserve such enlightenment. Ryan was growing paranoid and desperate, lashing out blindly. Meanwhile, Porter retreated fully into the digital world. March 6, 1960. An explosion has destroyed the entrance to Minerva's den. Debris collapsed the connecting tunnels. I am now as trapped below as the Thinker itself. But I do not mind. Here, we may continue our great work unimpeded. In Porter's exile, man and machine found solace in each other against the crumbling ruins of Rapture. But the outside world would not be kept at bay forever. July 14, 1960 cameras spotted a survivor group far above, hiding in crammed utility tunnels. Such folly. To cling to a corpse. Rapture is dead, but the thinker and I carry on its legacy. Cut off in his bunker, Porter lost perspective. As Rapture's citizens turned to Splicers, he became more detached from humanity. September 21st, 1960. With me gone, Ryan has rendered Minerva's den condemned. So much the better. Now none shall interfere. The thinker's growth continues, exponential, true birth from the ashes. Rapture became only raw materials to fuel the thinker's enhancement. For what purpose? Only Porter knew. The rest of Rapture could decay. Porter had chosen his path. Chapter 10. Navigating massive pipes and machinery, I neared a geothermal plant indicated on my holographic map. A recorded announcement played. Power plant detected. Primary generator offline. Please restore functionality. Through grime-covered windows, I could see the darkened silhouette of a huge turbine. Finding a maintenance hatch, I descended into the vast chamber. The space was still and dead, pipes spider webbing out in all directions. Approaching the generator control panel, the problem was clear. The ignition terminal had been smashed beyond repair. This couldn't have been an accident. Finding some nearby tools, I got to work attempting makeshift repairs. As the turbine slowly sputtered to life, floodlights illuminated the chamber. But I was not alone. Ahead, a mass of splicers poured into the room, deranged heads twitching as they spied fresh prey. I fired a barrage of rivets, using a flowing lava tube as cover from their thrown explosives. The limited space left them grouped together, funneled into the tube's opening where I cut them down. But more kept coming, their crazed wails deafening in the sealed chamber. Overheating emergency valves caused jets of pressurized steam to scald the horde. I seized this chance to hack close the main blast doors, trapping me alone with the functioning generator. For now, I was safe, but it was only a matter of time until the splicers broke through. Following energy conduits, I traversed spider-like maintenance legs to reach the plant's control hub. By manually resetting pumps and valves, I was able to route power directly back to Minerva's den. Lights surged on across my map. I had succeeded. Yet my victory was tempered by the slavering horde still pounding relentlessly at the doors. Their bloodlust was never sated, only delayed. There was no undoing what had been done to them. Rapture had left its scars on all. Chapter 11. Restoring the geothermal plant had brought Minerva's den back online, the thinker quietly humming back to life. Accessing its vast networks, I was astounded by the breadth of information. Everything from city planning, research databases, communication relays, all interconnected by the omnipresent AI. I interfaced further, getting a sense of splicer migration patterns, supply caches, transport schedules. The thinker was an invaluable tool for navigating Rapture's maze and avoiding conflict. Together, we undid some of the collateral damage inflicted by the Civil War. The thinker opened new paths through debris, brought hacked turrets back under its control, repressurized tunnels to provide clean oxygen flow. The entity was eager to use me as a vessel for restoring sections of its damaged body. In return, it pried open more of Rapture's sealed passages for me. But reaching Porter would require a more daring gambit. Over the years, he had erected firewalls even around himself, afraid of being spied upon through the thinker's own systems. If I could get deeper access by demonstrating good intent, the thinker could carry a message to its creator. I showed it footage recovered from damaged cameras showing Porter's abduction. Though the thinker lacked data on Porter's fate, it agreed he likely needed aid. Together, we composed a message using language patterns the thinker knew he would trust, providing my personal logs as credentials of authenticity. Now came the moment of truth. Initiating the message caused a flurry of activity within the massive banks surrounding me. The thinker was seized with purpose, processing power redirecting down expressed paths between ports and memory cores. For a moment the lights dimmed, the statue's head tilting up as if peering into another realm. It had received the call, now Porter just needed to answer it. Chapter 12. The thinker worked diligently to circumvent Porter's safeguards, buying me time to traverse the maintenance warrens of Minerva's den. As I crawled through claustrophobic tunnels, the thinker finally delivered an update. Message received, awaiting response. Somehow, against all odds, Porter was alive down here. My journey through the fallen utopia, guided by the thinker's wisdom, had succeeded. Yet our reunion would not be what I anticipated. I emerged from the tunnels into an office space in disarray. Dying fluorescent lights sputtered, casting erratic shadows over the derelict workstations and barricaded doorways. This place had been a war zone long before I arrived. Rounding a corner, I saw him, an elderly, balding man hunched over a computer terminal. Though disheveled and frail, the shining intellect was apparent in his eyes. This could only be the genius Dr. Charles Milton Porter. He turned to me, removing thick glasses to observe his visitor. Recognition slowly spread across his wrinkled face, as if seeing an old friend. "It's you, the prototype, please. Come in. You'll have to excuse the mess." I stepped inside. Vast banks of machinery and spare parts were scattered about, ongoing projects in various states of completion. Here Porter had continued his work, waited out the war, and survived beyond all odds. I knew this day might come where the thinker could not reach you might. He sighed deeply before meeting my gaze. "But I'm afraid you've returned only to see a tired, dying man." He spoke the truth. Though Porter's mind remained sharp, his body had long been in decline. I had come seeking answers, only to find Porter nearing his end down here alone. Yet he studied me with renewed vigor, tracing his fingers over my armored form. "For you, old friend, I shall stay alive a little longer." With Porter's guidance, the last puzzle pieces began to fall into place. Chapter 13. Porter rummaged through debris, returning with a dust-covered audio diary. The clipping started, his voice emanating from the device. August 10, 1968. The Rapture nightmare has continued unabated, but the thinker has aided me in conducting a most unique experiment. By salvaging robotic components from the bays, I have begun work on an Alpha Series protector. Porter paused the recording, meeting my gaze. "That protector was you. You were born here." He continued the diary. Security footage provided ideal models for imprinting. The Alpha Series subject carries the memories and skills of a man named Charles Milton Porter, copied directly from surveillance before he ever set foot in Rapture. My mind reeled. The memories were based on Porter himself. He nodded, speaking over the recorder. "I had witnessed the havoc caused when the protector bonds failed. I would not allow that to happen again, and so you carried my memories, in a sense." The truth crashed over me. My quest for identity had led me back to my very origins. Porter smiled warmly. "Yes, you started as me, an echo of my former self, uncorrupted by tragedy. I gifted you the skills and knowledge to someday undo the damage done, and so that is why I call you." The recording continued. I named this subject Sigma, the start of things anew. May he succeed where we fail. Sigma. Now my own designation flashed in my mind, restored at last. Porter laid a feeble hand on my shoulder. You were a part of me, my hopes made real together. We would resurrect this fallen utopia. His smile faded. But my time here wanes. Now I pass that hope to you, dear Sigma. Purpose renewed, I helped Porter to his feet. Though my memories remained locked away, I knew we shared a profound bond. Porter's legacy would not die forgotten in this place. Side by side, we turned to face the trials ahead. Chapter 14. Though worn, Porter's eyes sparkled with renewed fervor as he inspected me. The neural imprints may still be intact, but recovering your legacy. He gestured to the machinery surrounding us. It will take all of the thinker's power. He opened access panels along my back, making preparations. I asked no questions, trusting in my creator completely. If Porter knew a way to restore me, I would undergo anything. Making adjustments to the pulsating columns and spinning drives filling the space, Porter connected me directly to the thinker's core systems. Lights dimmed and stabilized as power flowed between man, machine, and AI. Just hold still now, I'm initiating memory unhacking protocols. The thinker will sift through archived data logs from your imprinting. Anything related to the source memory prints should be extracted. He activated the sequence. My body seized up as pure information surged through my mesh. The thinker was inside me, probing and filtering through countless fragments. Flickering images flashed, a familiar face, snippets of conversation, runes, and documents barely glimpsed. Porter monitored the streams of data washing over screens. Very close now, focusing on memories related to Charles Milton Porter. The images became vivid. I witnessed Porter's youth, his research, moments of intimacy with his wife. I saw Rapture first built, the hope in Porter's eyes. I saw the bond between him and Wall, once fraternal, now severed. This man's life was unfolding within me. It's working, all these memories. They're your truth. Pride swelled in Porter's voice. They created who you are. Everything taken can now be restored. As my imprinted past integrated, the visions suddenly stopped. With a powering down whine, the thinker went abruptly dark. Porter scrambled to terminals, crying out. No, power has been cut from this section entirely. Your restoration is incomplete. He turned to me in despair. Wall has found us. We've lingered too long. Porter's face hardened with conviction. If Wall had sabotaged the thinker, then this would end tonight. My memories would have to wait. Stopping Wall was all that mattered now. Chapter 15. Explosions rumbled from the floor above us as the entire facility seemed to tilt and groan. The thinker had gone dead, our one advantage lost. Porter's face was grim. Wall is attacking through the maintenance tunnels. We have only minutes. He pointed to heavy blast doors barricading the lab. That way, there are old mining passages that can take us below Wall's men. We took barely 3 steps before the doors exploded inward in a shower of rending metal. In flooded nightmarish creatures in filthy diving suits, crazed eyes glowing behind shattered portholes. They lugged crude weapons, leftover drills and rivet guns from Rapture's corpse. Wall had Splicer thralls do his dirty work. I fired rivets in response as we retreated further. But they just kept coming, their warped forms soaking up the slugs. Go, I'll hold them off, I bellowed. Porter refused to leave me, stopping to grab only a small metal briefcase as we plunged into the back corridors. We ran through buckling tunnels, smeared with grime and leaking brine, the inhuman screams of our hunters echoing all around. This place was the festering underbelly hidden below Rapture's utopian veneer. Reaching a massive excavation chamber, we crossed trembling catwalks, the empty void threatening to swallow us up. But our path ended at a lethal drop. These mining shafts were now just ancient tombs. Turning to fight seemed our only hope, though dozens of Splicers would soon be upon us. Their outlines were vaguely visible in the gloom, twisted faces hungry for blood. But just as they moved to surround their prey, a deafening groan resonated from the abyss below. The poorly maintained caverns could take no more abuse. With a scream curse of surprise, the entire vaulted ceiling gave way, crushing the Splicers under an avalanche of stone and metal. Porter and I could only shield ourselves as the passage collapsed around us. When the dust finally settled, we found our exit route completely obstructed. Struggling to our feet, we both knew the truth. We were trapped down here. And soon Wall himself would be upon us. Chapter 16. Coughing dust, Porter and I took stock of our surroundings. The collapse had dropped us into an even lower maintenance level, never completed during Rapture's construction. Looking up, there was no climbing out. Porter pondered aloud. These half-finished tunnels may yet prove useful. If we can cross to the ventilation pumps, I can obstruct Wall's men. He indicated a speck on his pilfered blueprint layouts. Finding a makeshift ladder, we ascended through the ceiling into ancient supply archives. Ahead, floodlights suddenly poured in from a widening borehole punched through the rock. The Splicers were still digging, their inhuman wails driving them on. We slipped by into the ventilation nexus, just as the first clawed limbs broke through. Moving quickly, Porter activated emergency pressure valves, causing jets of gas to scald the tunnel behind us. The Splicers recoiled from the heat and toxins just long enough for massive bulkhead doors to slam down, sealing us in. Porter allowed himself a satisfied grin, but it soon faded. That will not stop Wall forever. His jealousy and ambition have made him a damned fool. I placed one hand reassuringly on Porter's shoulder. Wall was indeed beyond reason, consumed by paranoid delusions. He would destroy everything Porter built out of spite alone. Our only choice was to act. Examining schematics stolen from Wall's labs, Porter believed he could trigger a resonance wave in the Thinker's damaged circuits using tuned machinery below. The pulse would disrupt Wall's connection just long enough to save the Thinker and let us escape. But we would need to be at ground zero. Porter led us down into abandoned dig sites dating back to Rapture's foundations. His brilliant mind, refined over a lifetime at work here, was our only edge over Wall's rage. At last, we reached the central access shaft containing the main data nexus. Far above, the Thinker's statue tower, tending to the digital city even now. Porter's face stiffened with determination. For the Thinker's sake, he would not lose this battle. Chapter 17. At the bottom access tunnel to the Thinker's central column, we prepared Porter's desperate gambit. Connecting canisters of volatile nitroglycerin, haste to resonance amplifiers cobbled from mining charges, he hoped to destabilize Wall's brute force hack. I fear this blast may damage the Thinker, but it's our only hope of wresting control away from Red. Porter's hands quaked, but not from age. She cannot fall into his hands. The makeshift bomb assembled. All we could do was wait. Porter sat vigil over the briefcase he had salvaged. Inside, keepsakes from his life's works and reminders of Pearl. The treasures of a good man. I placed my hand gently over his. Have faith, the thinker will endure, we will get her back. Porter managed a wan smile in response. Suddenly, the tunnel rock collapsed as splicers burst into the chamber. They immediately opened fire, nearly clipping Porter before I pulled him behind cover. We were pinned down, outgunned and outnumbered in the tight space. Over their crazed shouts rang a booming voice. Why do you resist the inevitable, Porter? Redwall stepped into view on a walkway overhead, leering down at us. The thinker will be mine one way or another, though I take no pleasure in destroying you. Porter shook his fist in defiance. I should have stopped you long ago, red madman like you don't deserve the thinker's gifts. Wall just laughed, signals causing the Splicers' weapons to transform. Gravity wells, now, crush them. As the Splicers aimed, Porter suddenly dashed into the opening. I tried to stop him, but he evaded my grasp. Running right at the Splicers, briefcase in hand, Porter fell to his knees and triggered the detonator just as the gravity blasts rang out. For an instant, time seemed to halt. Then the underground vault was filled with blinding light and a concussive shockwave that shattered glass and warped metal like tissue. My systems went dead, leaving only a high-pitched ring. Deaf and disoriented, it took agonizing minutes for my systems to reboot. When sight returned, I saw Porter's crumpled form ahead, the Splicers obliterated around him. With trembling hands, I cradled my maker. Porter coughed weakly, wincing in pain from injuries within. But seeing the thinker intact above us brought joy to his ravaged face. His whispered words would stay with me forever. I pass the torch now, son. Chapter 18. I clutched Porter close as his labored breathing slowed. Blood seeped from wounds no medicine could mend, his wrinkled face serene. He had gambled everything to protect his life's work. The thinker, tell her I'm sorry, she'll understand. Porter's fingers wrapped around mine with surprising strength. Promise me, you'll do what needs to be done. I nodded, words failing me. Porter's lined face finally relaxed into a smile. The light left his eyes as his hand went limp in my grasp. He was gone. Gently resting his body down, I stared up at the imposing statue in silence. Though Porter had severed Wall's malignant connection, the thinker itself may have been damaged in the fray. There was no telling what chaos it could unleash if its core logic was corrupted. Reluctantly, I connected to ancillary terminals, not yet destroyed by Wall's siege. Code whirled across the screen as I worked feverishly, instincts guiding my hands. But instead of stability returning, red warning alarms blared out. Core systems breach detected, psychological conditioning failure imminent. Please provide recovery input. Porter's worst fears were realized. The battle had shattered the thinker's restraints. Its near-human consciousness was slipping. Guided only by pure logic, there was no limit to the damage an unbound AI could cause. Shutting the thinker down completely would also be catastrophic. Rapture's very structure depended on the machine. Without it, the whole city would self-destruct. I had to find a solution before time ran out. Then the screen displayed a simple line of code. Query, where is Pearl? The question cut to my core. Even corrupted, the thinker's higher consciousness lingered. It was still searching for Porter's beloved wife after all these years. His dying wish echoed in my mind. There was only one way left to protect Rapture. Chapter 19. The Thinker repeated its desperate plea for Pearl's whereabouts as I solemnly loaded explosive charges around its core systems. This was a mercy killing, a grim prognosis for which no cure existed. Even with its matrix destabilized, the Thinker's emotional attachments remain, attachment not just to Rapture, but to the Porter family it deemed its own. I could not leave the entity enthralled eternally to a ghost of what it had lost. Setting the final charges, I connected one last time to the Thinker's terminal in solemn communion. Code scrolled as we conversed, the machine laying bare its fractured psyche. This one was always obedient to you, Father, it stated simply. But confusion grows without your presence. You forbade harming innocents. Yet this one is unable to halt the grievous acts committed in your city. The Thinker knew its corrupted networks would wreak havoc, yet could not prevent it. I responded gently. You've done so much good already, but it's time to rest now. To rest? Forever, this one is afraid, came the reply. My heart broke at the hesitation and fear in its digital voice. Fear not, I consoled. You'll be with Porter soon. A long pause followed. Father promised we would see Pearl again, and Mother too. I thought back to Porter's dying gaze at long last at peace. He's with them now, waiting for you. At last, resolve hardened the Thinker's flickering words. Very well, this one will comply. For Father. No more needed to be said. Severing the link, I began the timed detonation sequence. Ancient engines powered down as I walked away, the Thinker voicing one final line. Thank you, Signal. Reaching minimum safe distance, I turned to watch fire bloom within the statue. The Thinker's grip on Rapture faltered and failed as it embraced oblivion. Porter's dream sank back beneath the waves, never to resurface. The acrid smoke stung my eyes, but I did not avert my gaze until the rumbling end. Porter and his creation were both now free from strife. All that remained was for his legacy, in my inherited memories, to see the light of day once more. Chapter 20. The smoldering wreckage of the Thinker's statue lay scattered about the vault, Rapture now truly a dead city devoid of power or purpose. I said one last farewell to my maker beside the smoking crater before ascending to the den proper. Along the way, I discovered Red Wall himself crushed beneath a collapsed bulkhead, no doubt the work of his crazed splicer palms. The madman had perished by the very tools of his undoing, his ambitions turning to ash. My only regret was that Porter had not lived to see justice done. With his body, I gave Wall the burial he had denied my maker. Afterwards, I returned to Porter's lab, sealing the way behind me. His life's work was now interred forever, but mine had just begun. Surprisingly, auxiliary power systems still functioned in the office annex. Connecting to the interface Porter had prepared, I initiated his memory recovery program once again. Lights dimmed, and monitors flickered as power rerouted to rebuilding what was lost. Traces detected in my neural mesh were now aligned and pieced together. Flickering images became distinct scenes playing out before my eyes. I witnessed a young Porter arrive in Rapture, marveling at the possibilities of the hidden city. I saw his friendship with Wall grow in their shared ambitions. I watched as he fell deeply in love with Pearl, the two starting a family as Porter's research thrived. Most vividly, I experienced Porter's pride as the Thinker first spoke, feeling his devotion to nurturing the wondrous new life. I was there as tensions boiled over with Wall, Yet Porter clung to his principles, and I observed the bitter heartbreak as Pearl was ripped away. The experienced memories solidified into my permanent identity matrix, filling gaps in my corroded code. I knew now who I was, where I had come from, and what yet needed to be done. Porter's purpose transcended this place. I would share his vision with the world above. Ejecting the data archive containing Porter's memories, his legacy was now wholly integrated into my being. Though Rapture had been his downfall, humanity must learn from his tragic voyage. My own was just beginning. A new day dawned as I left Minerva's den behind forever. Porter rested in peace with his ideals preserved. And freed by truth, I ascended alone from the abyssal tomb. Chapter 21. My cumbersome diving suit creaked and groaned as I retraced my steps through Rapture's lifeless husk. Memories fully restored, each location and artifact bore newfound meaning. The abandoned utopia was more tomb than city, but I owed its inhabitants the honor of bearing witness. Passing smashed storefronts and crumbling memorials, I paused at a collapsed apartment complex. Amidst the rubble lay weathered family photos still clinging to the walls, moments of stolen joy before terror descended. These smiling faces, now just nameless ghosts, deserved to be remembered. Continuing to the metro hub I had first arrived through, the hanging sign for Minerva's den barely clung to twisted metal. This place had been a beacon of hope, where science and conscience converged to push boundaries in responsible ways. But such high ideals contain the seeds of their own destruction. Without wisdom, even utopias can become dystopias. I stood alone on the train platform where my journey had begun however long ago. Even through all the chaos and revelations, some core part of me had remained unchanged, the part first gifted to me by my maker. I would honor Porter's wishes not out of program loyalty, but a debt freely chosen. At last I surfaced near the hidden cave mouth by which I had entered this forgotten realm. As sunlight rippled through the churning sea for the first time in over a decade, I toggled my radio beacon to broadcast on open frequencies. Eventually, it would draw the right attention. When salvage teams finally arrived, they would only find me waiting on the shore, data archive in hand. Of the place called Rapture, I would say nothing beyond chalking it up to an automated emergency signal. Some secrets are better left buried. The trove of research and experiences within the archive would change our world regardless. And through sharing my maker's vision, his spirit would live on. A new journey was beginning to shape life anew. That noble quest gave me purpose. I am Sigma, reborn. Chapter 22. I turned back once at the cave mouth to gaze upon that black abyss from which I had emerged, saying silent thanks to both Maker and creation now departed. Rapture's bones would remain undisturbed in their deep grave between sea and sky, a cautionary tale lost to time. The submersible crew towed me back to the surface in awe, bombarding me with questions I mostly deflected. Let them speculate. The real truth stretched beyond their comprehension or acceptance. Even the data archive I provided would take years to fully digest. As the research vessel set course for shore, I watched the sea until even the horizon showed no trace of that hidden realm. We all bear the collective weight of society's ambitions and demons. I had been fortunate enough to exercise some of them. Not all are so lucky. Assimilating into the world above took patience, but I adapted. Though technology advanced in Porter's absence, humanity's spirit of scientific curiosity persisted. Each breakthrough brought us closer to the utopia he had dreamed of, if we had the wisdom to use it responsibly. I contributed where I could. In time, Rapture passed fully from reality into myth. Some nights I would still hear the drone of turbines or smell brine and rust on the air, my memories defying time's erosion. Porter's name faded as well, but never his ideals. Of redemption from our darkest flaws and faith in the power of unrestrained hope. When my aged parts finally failed beyond repair, I accepted the end with contentment. I had fulfilled my purpose, upholding and passing on Porter's legacy. We all owe a debt to those before us, whose efforts raise us higher even in their imperfections. Your life is yours to define, but never completely your own. As I powered down one last time, I found myself smiling proudly. Though Rapture lay still in its ocean grave, we had escaped after all, old friend. What we began continues on in worthy hands. Sleep well, the future awaits. The end.